all our FM readers and, as it turns out, watchers on this YouTube channel. My name's Julieta Televi. I'm one of the editors at the Financial Mail. And this isn't actually my idea. This is Tim Cohen's idea, who you can see in the screen there, along with Ruby De La Hunt, who is one of the most promising financial journalists in South Africa at the moment. And the idea is that we discuss our lead story every week. Our cover this week is on lab-grown diamonds, the threat thereof, and what it means for the natural diamond industry. And with me to talk about this are the two writers of the cover, being Ruby and Tim. Ruby and Tim, thank you very much. And Tim, I think this is a great idea to discuss the cover story on a weekly basis and to go into, I suppose, the making thereof, the writing of the cover story. What was the premise of this week's cover? And I'll start with you, Tim, and then get to Ruby.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such an extraordinary sort of turn of events. The diamond market was something that was, reputedly going to last forever, like the diamonds themselves. And it turns out that the market has just been turned on its head in a very short space of time. So lab-grown diamonds, which were a sort of distant concept, they've existed for a long time. But both India and China are now producing lab-grown diamonds in enormous quality and quantity. And that has just changed the entire market. So the question that we really wanted to ask was, what is happening now in the jeweler's store? What are people asking for, thinking about? And what does that say about the future of the diamond market as a whole? Just to give you sort of some kind of feel of what's happened, a 1 carat diamond was around about $6,000 in 2016, and it's now around about $4,000. The price of a lab-grown retail diamond, 2016, was about $8,000. It's now about $500. It's just incredible.
On that point, Ruby, would you say that natural diamond miners like De Beers are actually in bigger trouble than even they realize? If you look at what you can pay for a lab-grown versus a natural diamond.
I think it depends, but I think they realize to a certain extent how much trouble they're in. Or maybe they're not acknowledging it to the extent that they should be. The lab-grown producers have made their product cheaper and in vast amounts. Diamond miners are falling behind in terms of making people want a natural stone. There's just absolutely market value to a 1 or 2 carat D-flawless diamond anymore. And they've kind of fumbled the market in terms of trying to get people to want them again. So I think they know they're in trouble. And I think they just don't know what to do about it, actually.
Ruby, would you accept a lab-grown diamond or a natural diamond as an engagement ring? And there was a fierce debate within our own newsroom about this. Did you have any interesting conclusions in your research for the story? Do people want a natural stone for big occasions like a wedding or an anniversary, or would they be quite happy with a lab-grown diamond, seeing as actually chemically they're identical?
It depends on what sort of engagement ring you're looking for. So in the sort of market of your traditional engagement ring, your about 1 carat kind of solitaire diamond, just the single stone on the ring, that market has been completely demolished by lab-growns. I mean, there's absolutely no reason to go for a much more expensive, 10 times more expensive natural diamond. But, a lot of people nowadays are actually going for more intricate, more special engagement rings, are going for ones maybe with diamonds recycled from family heirlooms, or are going for completely different stones entirely. But, the traditional, what you think of engagement ring, no one really wants a natural anymore. Unless they're kind of from the generation that still values diamonds. When I spoke to some of the jewelers, they said they're kind of customers who are still coming in for those small natural diamonds are older and kind of still see value in a diamond, kind of say, you know, when I did propose to my wife 25 years ago, I couldn't afford one. Now we want one because we can. But people who are getting engaged today, no, they aren't really interested.
Tim, as I suppose more of a veteran journalist who has reported extensively on Anglo-American and De Beers, did anything strike you about the story when you were putting it together? Were there some sort of surprising facets, if you like, to this cover story?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, one interesting thing, just to pick up on what Ruby was saying, is that one of the jewelers that I spoke to said that the American market is, you know, by far the biggest market for polished and cut diamonds in the world. It's, you know, around about 40% of total. And in America, the bifurcation, am I saying that right? Bifurcation?
Bifurcation.
Bifurcation of the market is, you know, it's similar to what's happening in the broader economy. So what's happening to diamonds is that, you know, it's the K economy, the K-style economy with top end getting richer and richer and being much more accepting of and desirous of natural diamonds. And then the bottom leg of the K, younger people who are taking more strain in the economy, they love lab-grown diamonds because they can get an impressive diamond for much less than they could have got it years ago. In fact, some of the jewelers are saying, you know, for lab-grown diamonds, this has been a great development because it means that a whole group of people who were never in the diamond market, you know, are now financially able to enter the diamond markets. And there are jewelers who are specifically focusing on that. So that's the one thing. The second thing is, you know, all over the selling industry, I mean, this has been kind of typical over the years, but they're very critical of how De Beers has handled the advent of lab-grown diamonds. For example, you know, De Beers has for years been the kind of underpin from a marketing point of view of the entire diamond industry. But in this last period, since the Oppenheimer family sold their stake in De Beers to Anglo-American, and Anglo-American became really the dominant owner of the company, they haven't embarked on a large-scale generic campaign in favor of diamonds, and have only recently done so with something called desert diamonds. And the industry is, you know, pissed off about that. So I think those two things were really the two things that bounced out.
Of the people that you spoke to, did they think that a massive marketing campaign can reignite support for natural diamonds, or have they lost it? You know, has the cat been let out of the bag and it's out now?
I asked everyone this and assumed I would get a different answer, and every single person said no. They said there's no way you can bring back this market through a marketing campaign or two. Primarily, once you have let the cat out of the bag, like you say, or kind of destroyed the allure, people aren't going to get that back. You know, no one's going to sort of be swayed by the idea. And, you know, they all said De Beers is kind of, the ship has sailed. It's for them specifically, like, too little, too late. The campaign is, unfortunately, even if it is successful, would be more successful for its competitors because it controls such a small portion of the diamond market sphere today. So yeah, absolutely no one thought that, like, De Beers can market its way out of this problem.
That is a real problem when you have an asset on your hands, as Anglo-American does.
Yeah. Just to be fair, De Beers themselves, obviously we approached De Beers about the story, and they claim, and there is some support for this, I came across in talking to some of the jewelers, that the Desert Diamonds campaign has lifted the sales of natural diamonds in the most recent past. The other thing is that the price of lab-grown diamonds has declined so fast. There's a lot of people who not really aware that the 3 carat chunky solitaire that they got engaged with, which is just enormous, you know, has basically halved in value. So obviously one of the reasons why they probably haven't realized that is that you don't really buy a diamond for engagement purposes with the intention of reselling it. So
Well, it's a good insurance policy. Let's face it.
yeah, yes. But when people do become aware that there's been such a big fall off, you can expect that will affect people's attitude towards the lab grown market. At the moment, the whole changeover was led by 2 things, and it was led by jewelers who were offering customers big diamonds for much less. And the second thing, that both Indian and Chinese lab-grown diamond producers just supplying like crazy. We've seen the same trend with so many other Chinese products, where it seems like an unstoppable force, like it's a wave that hits the market, in the same way that electric cars from China, which didn't exist a couple of years ago, are now dominant. So those 2 things have been the drivers behind the market, as far as I can see.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting commercial and economic dynamic, because you should want to create a bit of scarcity value for your product. Tim, I've got lots more questions, but I want to leave it there because I actually want people to read the story, because I think I have more questions that hopefully you will answer in the story. So I urge everyone to have a look at Ruby and Tim's fabulous and brilliant cover story today on diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, and what De Beers is